Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to My World. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer, the greatest professional wrestler of all time, your friend and mine, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Oh, Connie, I'm going to warn the My World listeners just right out of the gate. You're in rare form. You're ready to throw some jabs. You had me and Waffle Stomping Silva cackling before we hit play. So, summer of no worries shirt on today. We are in the dog days of summer, like I said last week, but life is good. Got a big show in my hometown, Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA. We're here, and AEW rocking and rolling. Residency kicked off, and college football came out, and fishing is good. Baseball, Shooter McGavin was in town. Fireworks are in town. Springfield, Illinois is a hot place to be this summer. And Connie, I am ready to tackle. I think I heard this is a special edition of Ask Jeff Anything, which I have no idea what you have up your sleeve, but something tells me that you got something up your sleeve. So I'm excited to do this episode. We're going to have some fun today, but by the look of your face, when I logged on after I had a few computer issues and rebooted, I said, oh, Connie's up to something. He is without a doubt. Maybe it's because we're within 30 days of football season. I don't know. What you got on your mind today, Connie?
Well, I'm excited because we're throwing the keys to the show to our listeners today. It's Ask Jeff Anything. And I said anything. You can ask him about Memphis or Dallas or the new generation or the Four Horsemen or the Attitude Era or the Chosen One or the King of the Mountain or lawn care, anything in between. But before we get going, I do want to mention, as you're listening to this, tomorrow night, Nashville, Tennessee, it's finally happening. Blood and Guts, the AEW version of War Games, if you will. It's going to be insane. It's Team AEW, led by Swerve Strickland, alongside Darby Allin, who just came down from the rafters like Sting circa 1997, along with the Acclaimed and Mark Briscoe, taking on the Elite, Okada, Hangman Adam Page, Jack Perry, and the Young Bucks. This has been brewing for a long time. I kind of thought once upon a time this thing might go all the way to Wembley, and maybe it will. But Nashville's getting a big show tomorrow night. Tickets are on sale now, Jeff. AEWTIX.com. What do you expect in Nashville?
You know, I was looking at that graphic. I thought that was pretty cool when you kind of look at those 10 guys. They obviously, just because of the nature of the beast, but you look at the Acclaim that are truly homegrown without question. Darby's got roots in some different places, but you can say homegrown. Okada, the Bucks, Hangman got some fingers in ROH in Japan and all that. And Jack Perry, he's homegrown, but all 10 of them, you got to say that that's kind of the heart and soul in a lot of ways of the and that's what I'm saying. I don't want to say homegrown roster, but I think you kind of know where I'm going is. It's a gigantic show, headlining Bridgestone Arena, Mole Stomping Grounds, hometown. Looking forward to it. Obviously, the community, I'll say that, Middle Tennessee area. I've gotten quite a few of those old texts, Connie, as you know. Hey, man, how have you been? Y'all ever have any shows in Nashville?
Well, oh, my gosh.
That's all right, Connie. It comes with the territory, but, that's kind of I don't want to call it a focus group, but a mini focus group that you go, okay, there's an awareness, and it's good. Bridgestone, I went down, Conrad, I don't know if you got to see me and my man Nash, the Nashville Predators mascot. Did a little bit for social media, and a Blackhawks fan was shooting off at the mouth, and he took a guitar necklace. But Bridgestone, I walked in kind of the halls of it the other day, and they're doing another upgrade and creating we're creating another space to monetize. Imagine that. I think it's a big suite area. But that building is something else. It really is. The venue, lots of traffic, all kinds of stuff. Toby Keith has when is that? That is Monday, I think. Anyway, there's a special tribute show to Toby. All headline after headliner after headliner, but The Preds are their home tenant, but man, they have a lot of entertainment going out there. So I'm happy. I get to wake up Wednesday morning in my hometown and just drive to work. So all good. All good.
Tune in tomorrow night live on Turner. I can't believe it's finally here. Blood and Guts, AEW from Nashville. I also wanted to mention something you just sort of threw out in passing. You said, hey, NCAA came out. Jeff, we're not actually playing college football yet, but the video game for Xbox and PlayStation, NCAA 2025, has been released. But I didn't know you to be a big gamer. Are you telling me that you've actually played NCAA college football?
Mr. Silva, have we got an ad read to do? We need to transition here. Conrad?
No. We need a loud and this is Ask Jeff Anything. Conrad from Huntsville wants to know, Jeff, have you played video games? You've played NCAA 2025?
It's a sore spot.
How's it a sore spot? Did you tote that ass whooping?
Oh, no.
So you played as Tennessee. Alabama whooped you like always.
Well, hold on now. Hey, Tennessee, Neyland Stadium with the black uniforms. How real does that look, Conrad? For folks who have the college football, yeah, I wonder how many, that's a good little data point. I wonder how many of our My World family listeners, I wonder how many of them are gamers. If you're not a gamer, which I am not, you would not really classify me as a day in, day out gamer, although involved with the WrestleQuest, and we've got some DLCs coming out, but we won't talk WrestleQuest today. But as far as a hardcore gamer, that is not me. I'm a massive fan of the business. So Conrad, I'm going to kind of keep talking in circles, but I'm aware of the NCAA.
No, that's not what I asked. Have you played the game?
Yes, I have.
Okay, now I guess is it fair for me to assume that you played this? Because I just don't see there being a scenario where you played it at an event and footage didn't leak out. It would have been a promotional thing. So I assume, and I'm guessing here, and I'm flying without a net here. You played Cody in this game? You played it at your residence? You have a system, Cody has a system, and he said, Dad, let's play this game. And he beat you by 50 with Alabama.
He did play Alabama, and right now, Conrad, have you ever seen Karen mad?
I have. It's not fun.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how quick can she get to a 7 or 8?
Drake about 10 years ago had a song 0 to 100 real quick. That's Karen. And so I've only seen it one time, and that was enough for me to say, I don't want to do that again. Whatever it takes to not be like, I get it. Like, I don't want you to get in trouble, and it doesn't even affect me. I'm like,
so I am not a gamer. I sat down and Rocky Top was playing, and I had Tennessee, and he went with a ACC favorite because he's in the business, Conrad. A man coached her, went with the North Carolina Blue Tar Heels, because he's a heel sometimes. So he's got to go with the heel. Yes.
Okay.
And so
that's not good. That's not a good matchup. I feel like Tennessee's got the favor there.
Yeah, out of the gate, we got rocking and rolling. And I'll just say this. First game out of the gate, I slipped on a banana peel. Coach got the win.
Hell yeah. Way to go, Carolina. Tennessee loses second versus
Coach got the win. And that was, what was the score of that game? It was, because that was 16-13.
Oh, that was close. Okay, good for you, man. Good effort. Way to go.
Cody is big on the 2-point conversions, as you can tell.
Okay.
So 16-13. So got my routine at night, Conrad. Broke the routine. That literally was mistake number 1. The mistake number 2 is sitting down by the coaster, and he's going to go. And I think that's what I got to hang my hat on. When I saw Big Orange and he picked the Crimson Tide.
Oh, you knew this is going to get bad now.
Yeah, exactly. So I think my competitive juices got going. And
wait, hang on. I'm just putting all this together in real time. Did you get in trouble with Karen because you beat Cody?
It is by my iPhone watch. It is like 83 outside right now. It's about, I don't know,
110 in the kitchen.
110 in the bedroom kitchen area. Yes.
Wait, Jeff, why would you not let Cody win?
Well,
The Last Outlaw does no jobs.
to Alabama. I could not do it. I hope she doesn't hear this episode. She's like, you got to be kidding me. Not only, she's like, you always go to bed early. You always lay down. You always say, I'm going to sleep. I'm doing this. Yep, me and Codes. That stuff can get so addicting. But Conrad,
it's fun, isn't it?
Oh, when I had to, once I kind of figured out my passing scheme, I just dunked and duked it all the way down the field and ran it up the gut. And boy, Codes was calling me everything under the book, and I'm cheating. And how did you figure out these plays? I think what's the cheat code? Oh man, it was a heated view. So tonight, Conrad, we are one apiece, and we have the rematch. Big rematch.
I really think we got to get a gaming channel going, because I would love nothing more than to take turns whooping you and Tony and Cody. That'd be fun.
Have you got your phone? You got your phone with you?
Yeah, right here.
You ever see Cody's story?
Oh, it's like that. Huh? Let me go right now.
He will delete stuff in a minute. So I don't know that he hadn't already deleted it.
It's gone. Whatever was on his story is gone.
Okay. Oh, Conrad, he was between strutting and trying to get a photo of me after he beat me when he went up. He put on his story, I'm on a streak. He beat Jacqueline, brought her boyfriend over yesterday, and he beat him 2 straight. And then I played him, and he went.
So he's 3 in a row.
When he went 3-0, I can't be beat. I mean, he was in rare form. Cody, he's a horrible loser, but I mean, maybe equally or worse, he's a horrible winner. He was strutting and talking crap, and that game can be addicting, dude. We ought to have a little gaming. Hey, Top Guy Weekend.
I was just thinking the same thing. We should set up a system and let me just wear that ass out over and over and over.
Conrad.
Just so you know, though, I play where if you get up 21 points, it's house rule. We just turn it off. So,
okay.
So because I want to get it over quickly.
I'll play you by the half.
That's right. Now, if you escape the first quarter, I'd be surprised.
Oh, get out of here! No way.
I like that. The competitive juices were flowing with you, where you beat Cody.
Stop it! I'd like to dial that back.
Oh my gosh! Look at this.
There it is.
If you're watching on YouTube with us, myworldpod.com.
Thank you, Mr. Silva. You are, man.
That's fast.
When I saw you earlier, you look fantastic today, Dave. I just wanted to comment.
Will you stop?
Yeah, he's such a good guy. I hope he's doing well today.
He's playing too. He's playing with Texas, and he told me before we clicked record what we were talking about was his son Aaron, or as we like to call him, brother.
Yep,
brother played with Alabama. Roll Tide. He's been raised right, and of course, stupid ass Silva played with Texas. He beat his son too. What's wrong with y'all?
No.
Got a bunch of damn child abusers here on myworldpod.com. Why don't y'all let the kids win? What's wrong with y'all?
Boy, Dave, that's in my. I love it.
He broke it off at him.
Yep.
We're going to have some fun at Top Guy Weekend. If you haven't already, you should check out adfreeshows.com, including, we just had this big announcement. We've been talking about our pal Sam Adonis recently here on the program, who you've gotten to know working down for Dorian at AAA. Man. And we've teased that he's going to be doing some stuff at adfreeshows.com, and it's now official, Jeff. Sam Adonis is going to be giving listeners a better understanding and perspective of the wild world of Lucha Libre on a brand new series at adfreeshows.com that we're calling Learning Lucha. Let's take a listen.
It's time for more big news from adfreeshows.com as we announce a new special event show to the AFS lineup, offering a unique perspective on the world of Lucha Libre. Sam Adonis. With more than 15 years in the business with a style influenced from having wrestled in rings around the globe, Sam Adonis' star continues to rise, recently working with and receiving high praise from Jeff Jarrett.
And talk about not just good, but great at what he does down there, because he can work any style. But not only that, he understands that and is a box office attraction. I got a ton of respect for that.
Myself, Conrad, and the team at Ad Free Shows have banded together, and we will be bringing a monthly show to adfreeshows.com. It will be Learning Lucha with Sam Adonis. Every month we will have a topic. We're going to try to bridge the gap a little bit more between the American fans and what's happening currently in Mexico. So, for example, we do something like Gringos Locos or Rey Mysterio or Conan, something that everybody knows enough about to say, oh, I want to hear the Mexican take on that. There's a lot of knowledge to be had. There's not many Americans be in that position. I can give an opinion on stuff based through my own experiences.
You're going to expose folks to a whole nother side in the Ad Free family of the DNA of Lucha Libre.
So working with AAA, working with Conan, I think we can pretty much hammer out anything. We will have some guests. Don't be surprised if we have a few call-ins, maybe K-Dog or Juventud, Vampiro. I have plenty of friends down there. So this is just the beginning.
If you're a fan of wrestling, you will be intrigued. So, folks, go out of your way to dive into this and listen to my man Sam. It's good stuff. Really good stuff.
Thank you all.
Get ready for the debut of Learning Lucha with Sam Adonis, coming soon to adfreeshows.com.
I'm fired up. That looked awesome. I can't wait for Learning Lucha. Can't wait for you guys to check it out. It's exclusive to adfreeshows.com. You're going to get a perspective on Lucha Libre like you've never heard before, and a breakdown of the current products. You'll be able to keep up and understand what's going on with the storylines down there. We keep seeing all these great performers pop up in AEW. Well, now you're going to know who the heck they are and what they've been doing. Find out more at adfreeshows.com. There's more than 100,000 hours of bonus content there, including weekly series like Monday Mailbag, where we rotate between Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick. How about Tullyvision once a month? And Lex Express with Lex Luger. Yeah, Tully Blanchard, Lex Luger, Mike Chioda, Nick Patrick, The Blue Meaning, Kevin Sullivan, Nick Patrick, plus everybody in our whole network of shows. Maybe one of my favorite pieces of business we've been doing is the book with David Crockett, but knowing that right around the corner, now we've got a Lucha take. Sam Adonis is going to be a big hit once people get to know him. Don't you agree?
Connie, I was on him early, as they say. I was on him early. Yes. I've always been fascinated. Where do I even start? Because I think Sam's going to be a hit, but the influence of Lucha Libre in modern wrestling, I think Sam's going to be able to kind of weave in and out from a real lineage perspective. He's worked at both companies, CMLL, trained in their dojo, worked AAA. So just the influence that it has. And I think people will be surprised when you hear, like you said, the reference in stories. I mean, Rey Mysterio is probably the most well-known lucha star, but man, there are so many others that, Dave Meltzer, Mike Tenay, those guys for years have kind of really give it a historian perspective, but hearing it from an actual talent who's been in the dressing rooms and can really kind of peel back the layers of the onion, because it's pardon the pun, Mr. Jericho, but it's kind of it'll be somewhat of a learning tree. And I think our I know the little nuggets will connect a lot of dots. That's one of the reasons I've always, when I make the trips, I ask more questions and do a lot of listening down there. So fascinating. I've always been fascinated by Lucha Libre and the historical perspective of it. It's been around 100 years. So that in and of itself is pretty cool.
The culture is such that wrestling's Lucha Libre is a much bigger deal in the Mexican culture than American wrestling is here in our culture, in my opinion. Just riding around Mexico City and seeing all the masks that have been painted like murals and stuff, and like everybody has a store that sells masks. I mean, it is a it is a whole different way of life. And I'm excited for Sam Adonis, somebody who's super bilingual and understands the culture and the heritage and the people and the fans and the way the business works now, but also the history. Man, I just can't wait to learn from that dude.
And it's a boy from Pittsburgh. So that's what's,
Yeah.
I mean, he has an American perspective. Brothers of Corey Graves. A lot of folks don't even know that, but yeah, it's a unique thing. But the thing that to me is Mexico, Lucha Libre ingrained in the culture, in the fabric. You know, it's telenovelas and soccer, but wrestling. Those are kind of the three that the country's kind of based on. When you look at today's world of professional wrestling with the politicians, the football players or basketball players, that cricketer from India who just strutted. Nowadays in America, wrestling to me really is in pop culture in so many ways. It's been like that in Mexico for 100 years. That's the difference. And Sam's going to give us a good opportunity to, really get in the DNA of all of the history because he knows it.
Make plans to join us at adfreeshows.com. And now, without further ado, let's get into our topic today. It's Ask Jeff Anything. We threw the keys to you guys and are soliciting your questions. So stay tuned. Follow us on social and on our YouTube at myworldpod.com. And make sure you don't miss the opportunity to join us for another live Ask Jeff Anything. I want to shout out our live studio audience. I know Coach Rosie's here and Eric Jones is here, and we got a full house over there, Coach Keith, and so many other folks hanging out with us. Appreciate you being here, Ian and Alex and everybody in the live group chat here today from adfreeshows.com. Let's jump into it.
Conrad, real quick, before we get going, because last year when you won your Hall of Fame award, we got to talk about it on here, but obviously neither me or you went into the Hall of Fame, but it happened this weekend when you mentioned Coach Rosie's name because Coach went up and helped celebrate it. You want to just kind of tell it because he's obviously a massive part of not just the AEW world and family, but the one of the OGs of the ad-free family, Mr. Schiavone. His big Hall of Fame weekend. You want to share with my world folks just what went down?
I can't believe it's finally a real thing. Tony Schiavone has taken his rightful place in his very first Wrestling Hall of Fame. He's now a part of the TNT Hall of Fame, named after Lou Thez, and it's in Waterloo, Iowa, the birthplace of the NWA. And he received the Gordon Soley Award. The first recipient was Jim Ross. So to know that, it's Jim Ross and Gordon Soley and now Tony Schiavone, quite a cool honor. He had his whole family there, all the kids, the sister, his wife. I mean, the whole thing. It was just a beautiful experience. Over the weekend, Tom Pritchard went into that same Hall of Fame, brother of our pal Bruce.
Yep.
And the doctor himself. If you're looking to get into wrestling, boy, in the Knoxville area, he and Glenn Jacobs can teach you a thing or two. If they can teach Kurt Angle, The Rock, and Vince McMahon how to wrestle, they can probably fix you up too. And Arn Anderson went into the TNT Hall of Fame as well. So a lot of our podcast buddies through the years are now a part of the TNT Hall of Fame, and I'm proud to say that.
And Mr. Briscoe as well was out there. He had already been in, right?
Mr. Briscoe is the master of ceremonies. He is the unofficial mascot of that Hall of Fame. Without Mr. Briscoe, I don't know that I would have been as involved as I have been. I'm thankful and appreciative that I got to serve on the board this last year and would like to keep that going. We're going to have some fun. I hope you guys will join us next year. Consider becoming a lifetime member of the TNT Hall of Fame. It's in Waterloo, Iowa. It's not a lot of money, but it sure does go a long way to preserve wrestling history and help take care of those who have entertained us for so long.
That is so cool. Yeah. Shout out, Tony. Oh, Slappy. He's a good man, regardless of what Karen says about him. No.
Hey, since we're before we get into our questions, I do want to ask you. Over the weekend, TNA had a big crowd. 4,000 fans at their pay-per-view. It just so happened that it was in the middle of the biggest maybe travel snafu we've seen in a few years. All the systems went down and people were stranded all over the place, but they still managed to put together a pretty good show. And when it was all said and done, the former Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, is now the TNA world champion. Obviously, even if you're not a part of the company or even watching the show, maybe it's just fun to think about, all the time that he spent in WWE. Now he's the TNA champ. What'd you make of that?
Just, and boy, you can go in rabbit holes about all that travel delays. Maybe that's for a sidebar conversation if you got some road time. I don't know when you're going to head back to Alabama, but yeah. So just 22 years. Yeah. This would have been, I don't know what number the Slammiversary is, but still it's their anniversary show of celebrating. 22 years. And just hats off to every one of them. Anthem picked that ball up in into 2017, whatever it may be. 7 years. God, it just time flies in so many ways. But yes, Dolph was a guy that so many people, I think, viewed him as a lifer.
Yes.
He came into the system. I can remember just early had the blonde hair and amateur background, and then the performer he grew into, he was there. It felt like forever, and now to see him, he's the AAA champion. He is the TNA champion, and so when he found into whatever the exact circumstances, hats off to him. Hats off to TNA, no matter how you slice it and dice it. When you sell out your anniversary show, life is good, business is good. And it goes back to what me and you kind of continually harp on, just the diversity might not be the right one, but the different avenues and different opportunities. And at the end of the day, talent that wants to get traction, there's nothing better example to me than a guy like Dolph who saved his money. He could go home and just chill, but he's rolled up his sleeves and he is working his ass off. And man, Conrad, congrats to him and congrats to TNA for their success over the weekend.
Really excited for them. It's a big crowd. Anytime you can get 4,000 people together. I mean, even for a WWE house show, I don't remember them ever hitting 4,000 in Huntsville, Alabama. I mean, I'm sure it's happened before, but 4,000 folks is a lot of folks. I'm happy for TNA, and I'm thrilled for the former Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth. Just such a cool guy. What a great performer. Criminally underrated and underused and undervalued for so long. Finally getting some flowers running around here as the new TNA World Champ. Let's talk about some questions that we got here. We'll start with a good one from Instagram, a wrestling historian. Did you ever consider putting the TNA championship on Booker T during his time there? Thanks in advance.
Well, without question, my man, Instagram, AW wrestling historian. I got a question for him. I may hit him up. I got a definite question for him about my own career, but that's a sidebar. The answer to the question is by design, the Main Event Mafia, all former world heavyweight champions. And so they all, I guess you could say, pre-qualified to talk a little mortgage business here. Yes. I mean, there was, did we have a plan or an avenue that on paper? No, but was it discussed? Yes. And look, maybe there was something on paper, but the Legends champ, he wanted to do, or I don't say wanted to, it was a natural fit. And so it certainly wasn't his idea. That was a creative idea, but yes, there was definitely consideration. All five of the original Main Event Mafia guys pre-qualified for that role.
Sheik Anthony Hayes says, I never heard how the saga with the skunks ended. I'd like a total recap on the skunk den. Did you handle your skunk problem? Is it finished? We haven't heard an update in a while.
Well, the little, it wasn't a little, but they had, we finally figured out how they were getting up under the one part of the house, and we got professional help there, and they sealed it off. First they had to, gosh, the guy said what did Sheiky say here at Sheik Anthony? A total recap. We had to get all the spray and sanitize the whole area, pull up all the old plastic, put out all new plastic, sealed all that off. And so as far as them getting under the house, we definitely took care of that, but they are still around, and you can go out at night. We have to be careful. Every now and then you can still catch a whiff of a skunk, but I think the ones that were living in our house are gone. Praise the Lord. So the skunk saga.
Real fun question here that I know is going to get everybody hot and bothered. Big Bot Man says, Jeff, what's your honest opinion of Disco Inferno? He seems to get a lot of hate from the younger wrestlers for his opinions, other than guys that give their opinions, like Bischoff, Cornette, Bully, Booker, or Conan. Sure, he wasn't a top star, but the guy always had good, entertaining matches. What do you make of the real life Glenn Gilbert's online Disco Inferno persona?
I want to make sure I'm reading that question right. So, Dave, keep that up. He seems to get a lot of hate from the younger wrestlers for his opinions than other guys. He is Big Bob.
What do you think of Disco Inferno trolling everyone 24/7 with his shitty internet wrestling opinions?
Yeah, but is he saying, Big Bot saying that Disco gets more heat than Bischoff and Cornette and Bully and Booker and Conan?
He's saying that the talent don't normally clap back at those guys, but they do at Disco.
Okay. So I often chuckle because if you've ever been in a room with him, and I have, in creative rooms, dressing rooms, I'll say the real life Glenn Gilberty Disco Inferno has a unique delivery that is raw, divisive. He could care less. That is his actual personality. I will say what's on my mind regardless. And I think, and I don't think always X/Twitter, I don't think sometimes the power of the pen, the written word sometimes conveyed right. A lot of times I think Disco's, it's exactly, by design, he is, and I don't even want to say trolling Conrad, because it's just he likes to say things to get massive reactions, and boy, oh boy, does he. Yeah, I'll just say that but he's always done that. I'm telling you, if you've been around him in a dressing room, I've seen people get just as mad at him in a creative room, in a dressing room, as they do on X. It's literally no different. You just, that's Glenn. Love him or hate him, that's exactly what you're going to get. And I don't think he means a bit of harm. I don't think he says,
oh, come on now.
Like, it's anything mean-spirited, or he just likes to pop off.
One of the more famous dunk on moments in the internet wrestling community was back in 2018.
Okay.
Cody Rhodes took a cut from Kenny Omega and got a big cut over the eye, just below the eyebrow.
Ooh.
And it was posted online. And back in 2018, Glenn quote tweeted it and said, nobody knows how to work anymore. They would rather kill each other to get Dave Meltzer to put their match over. That's a problem that needs to be put front and center. Guys are going to keep getting hurt. And Cody responded and quote tweeted that and said, stop. You know nothing. You've drawn $0. No fan has ever left a show thinking about you. You were lucky to be a juiced up double lifer over with the boys type in an era where you could hide in plain sight, coasting on others' success. Couldn't hang then, can't get booked now.
Oh, I could envision Cody saying that in the dressing room directly to him.
I can too.
That's good.
But the thing is, I feel like that's just part of his personality. Like I'm talking about Disco. I feel like he just always takes a contrarian point of view because he enjoys stirring it up. Like no matter what you like, we like the opposite.
So I have said, I don't think I've ever said this publicly, but I'll say this. I've never met his mother ever, but I'd be willing to bet that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I bet Mama Gilberty is exactly the same way.
That would not surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Martin Saban says, after that emotional promo and your performance in the Owen Hart Cup, you have the fans behind you. How does it feel having all the support in 2024? And what's next for Double J? I think we need a triple threat at Wembley where Double J pins Swerve and Danielson. Stacked on top of each other is what I'd like.
I don't know.
Hit them with that Roman Reigns WrestleMania pin.
There you go. What is
Seriously, you've been this heel forever. You've been this hated, despised heel, and now all of a sudden, people are like, "Wait a minute, I kind of like Jeff Jarrett," and I'm sure you're looking around like, "What?
what the hell?" I'll say this.
How did I do this accidentally?"
Yeah, exactly. Speaking from my heart. I'll give you a little bit of inside baseball on this. I think it's a very naive, I guess you could say naive point of view, is that I don't assume, I assume a very, very, very small fraction have kind of seen the Owen Hart interviews. And so I don't expect this, I'll call it overwhelming. I'm grateful for it. I think it's unique. The timing of it all, I will embrace it. I'll do whatever I need to do. But I just think that I have been a heel for 30 years. I just don't think overnight, oh man, he did the, I don't know. So more than anything, Conrad, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I'm very curious to see where all this goes. I really am, because it is, you think about, and I don't want to say reinventing yourself, because it's not that, because the people have to accept it and you have to kind of the twist and turns. But it is me being a babyface in 2024. Who'd have thunk, Connie? Who'd have thunk?
Not me.
You ain't
Not
kidding.
me.
Me neither. Especially take us back to the parking lot in 20.
Nashville.
Yeah.
When you're trying to kill my pop, my goodness.
Oh,
Hey, let's talk about something that I know you can personally endorse and get behind. I'm talking about your experience with Chubbies. You were talking before we went live today about, fishing down at the dock and catching some fish and having a good time in the summer. But man, is Chubbies where it's at or not? I mean, this is a lifestyle apparel brand that has no equivalent in all of human history. What I think has happened is Chubbies has crafted the most comfortable clothing and some of the most unique designs ever. And it's near impossible to wear them without being filled with a sense of life and mystery. Hey, this is going to be a fun journey. Look at my cool pants. I mean, for serious business, I'm not even kidding. Anytime my dad in the summer, certainly the spring too, anytime I go over there, dad's rocking some Chubbies and he absolutely loves it. They've got swim trunks in 3 different inseam lengths. So if you're like Jeff and you want to show the hogs off, you can do that. But if you're like me and you want it a little longer, they got you covered there too. They can even help you with pants, polos, and button-down shirts. It's going to be really, really comfortable stuff that's super stretchy and feels fun and thin and airy. And I don't know, I can't really describe it. It's just quality. You'll know it when you feel it. But when I talk about the different original stretch shorts, that's what it's all about. My dad, if he could wear them to work, he would. They come in 4 inches, 5.5 inches, and 7-inch inseams, which is awesome. And I'm a big fan of the Friday shirts they've got. You're going to be cooking with gas with these things. They got casual button downs. They got retro inspired prints. They're super, super comfortable. Jeff, I know you've been rocking some of the swimsuits around the pool and when you're doing lake stuff. What's your experience been like with Chubbies?
buddy, what makes a number one hit? Is it the song or the singer? And I say, what makes a number one just take your breath away product? It's got to be quality, but to me, the branding of it is off the charts. Chubbies. And here's Connie, true story. We were out on the birthday dinner and we got to talking about the podcast and different sponsors, and kind of my daughters were asking me different things. And I said, hey, ladies, I can't call them girls anymore. I said, have you ever heard of the brand Chubbies? Conrad, they looked at me like I was the biggest idiot. They're like, huh? Yes, we've heard of it. It is the brand, which was pretty impressive. And I got to say, well, they are a sponsor of the show. So yes, I got my, what'd you say, Connie? My hogs.
Well, listen, I know you like that 4-inch inseam because you want to let it dangle.
I got two pair, and wore one yesterday as I was jet skiing. So, yep. Huge fan of Chubbies. Huge fan. The branding is great, but more importantly, if you can't back it up with the right feel and fit and fabric and all that, that's it. Right feel, right fit, right fabric. Triple F. 20% off Chubbies. That's chubbiesshorts.com/myworld.
That's chubbyshorts.com/myworld. They've got ultra vibrant colors and patterns. But what's cool is it's a 4-way stretch fabric. It's got an elastic waistband. It's got an anti-chafing mesh liner, and it's even got a zippered back pocket. You heard me right. Pockets on a swimsuit. We're living in the future here. It's going to wear like shorts, but it's got the versatility and the comfort of a swimsuit. Wouldn't you look at that? Our friends at Chubbies giving our listeners 20% off with the promo code MyWorld at checkout. Just go to chubbyshorts.com and use the promo code MyWorld. That's 20% off your order with the promo code MyWorld. Support our show and tell them we sent you. Don't just blend in with the crowd. Stand out with Chubbies. Let's do another question here. This one comes to us from John. How do you feel about both promotions airing multiple weekly shows when it comes to burning out the fans? For me, SmackDown diluted the Attitude Era product greatly. Thunder did the same to WCW. And I fear AEW is taking it a step further with way too many shows. Do you think there's too many shows now, Jeff?
Buddy, this is a topic that I think there's so many avenues you could take. We're doing Ask Jeff Anything, so I'll give you the short answer first. Not only no, but hell no. The long-winded answer is this: because I'll kind of reference the Attitude Era. In the Attitude Era, it was it was a different world, pre-streaming, pre-social media. So your options as far as consuming content were just narrow. There just weren't as many. Now today in 2024, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, YouTube, just YouTube alone, but then Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, X. I mean, we could go all down the list. So to kind of cut through the clutter, content is king. And so the kind of the anchor or the flagship, if you will, of a media property or a wrestling promotion is, in our case, 2 hours on Wednesday night Dynamite, 2 hours on Saturday night Collision, 1 hour on Friday night's Rampage. So 5 hours a week, you think, oh my God, that's too much wrestling. But the amount of content that you can spin out of that, the YouTube shorts, the reels, the social media content, the backstage, if you don't have that much content, it is super, super, super difficult to really, to me, to kind of get traction in the world we live in. That's on growing a global business. On the other side, you kind of look at the numbers, and I know people do the deep dive on demos, and this week it's up and this week it's down, and viewers, this is up and this is down, and they've gained this much audience or they've lost this much audience. I mean, we could just go round and round and round and round. But at the end of the day, when you take a step back and really look at the amount of viewers that watch the live content and then watch the plus 24 and plus 3 days and all that, wrestling, it is in the DNA of not just America, to me, of the world. And so you're going to get paid for it. And so I don't think any businessman, Conrad, somebody walk into your mortgage place and say, hey man, I'm going to give you a couple $100 million worth of business over the next 12 months. I just don't see any scenario saying, I'm good. I'd rather not have that business. That just doesn't have how the world works. So I get it. And John, at Contrail Staley, I totally understand where you're going. I think the peeling the layer of the onion back for you is that you are not a casual viewer. And so God bless you. I love you. You try to consume all content. And so I think in your eyes, I am not dismissing it. I can see easily how you would say, oh man, the product's getting diluted. The reality is not everybody watches every Wednesday or every Saturday, every Friday. It's just a mixed bag. And you go from every show watcher to every maybe one show a week to casual to, hey, I'm just going to watch the big show. So it's really a cross range. There's my long-winded answer, pal.
Let's talk a little bit about Robert's question. He wants to know, can Jeff describe the stroke? People seem to think it's the same as Miz's skull-crushing finale, but it looks more like a regular forward Russian leg sweep. How would you describe the stroke?
At RDF _1987, you hit it, pal. Forward Russian leg sweep is the easiest term to say that. But, you can call different moves. What do you call Miz skull crushing finale? That's just kind of a full Nelson forward Russian leg sweep. So there's variations, but I think in layman's terms, forward Russian leg sweep would be the easiest. Why was it called a Russian leg sweep? Who? That's a Wikipedia question, or
I don't know. Did Nikita Koloff come up with that?
I don't think I've been long before Nikita.
I was joking. Hey,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, how did you come up with the stroke as a finish? Do you remember working with somebody, and did somebody say, hey, what if? Did you see it somewhere? Who did you work it out with? How did you name it? Just talk to me about the origins of it.
At WWF, I want to say Big John Tenta, the Oddities, but kind of there was a discussion, and I was already leaning toward man, figure four, that's a submission. I'm a heel. That doesn't really, I'd use that off and on. And Kevin Sullivan had wanted me because of Flair and the story. I really started using that, different. There was a different variations, but I wanted to come up with something that was just super simple. Jack Lanza, me and him had a conversation. I'm trying to think who else, but I remember Lanza, and I said, hey, what about this? And I think John Tenta was the first guy on TV. I may be wrong, but basically come up with a finish that I can give to anybody out of so many different variations. And to me, just kind of naming it the stroke was something that fit into the persona as well.
Did you think you needed a finish besides the figure four? You just needed to be.
Yes. Yeah. And if you think, in WCW, the stroke was used as what's a synonym?
Like a diamond cutter, like a stone cold stunner.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as making it simplistic, yes. But the play on words of the stroke was a guitar stroke. In WCW, it moved into what would you say, power play, or wielding power, the stroke of a pen, like the pencil. So
you had political stroke. You had stroke in the locker room. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. But originally, it could have been used as a guitar stroke as well.
Our man, one of mine and your favorite follows on Twitter, Ian Drew Dice Clay, says, do you feel TNA was
one day?
say what now?
I'd like to meet old Ian one day. He's fascinating.
We got to get him across the pond to a StarCast one day.
Yes, we do.
You and I send his posts back and forth to each other. We don't dare retweet some of them, but we send them back and forth to each other and just laugh and laugh. Shout out to Ian. Do you feel TNA was given a fair shake by the sheets at a time? They could have gotten behind you as a startup in a way, harder market than in 2024. So yeah, let's talk about that. Do you think that the timing was off and maybe that's the reason you didn't get more support? Why don't you think you got more support from the internet wrestling community like Wade Keller and Dave Meltzer?
So my answer today is so different than kind of going through the era, like real time. And then we'll say maybe, I don't know, 2011, 12, 13-ish, 14-ish. And then kind of, I'll call it in the global force days, or, from 14 to 18 or 19. And me and Connie, for the listeners, me and Conrad have, TNA LOL. And sometimes I especially when we started the podcast, I'm like, Conrad, give me some context here. And he would say, oh, no, this is kind of from the mindset that everything TNA did was kind of TNA LOL. And the timing of it all, and what Ian is, to me, is what he kind of hit on in a way that a startup in 2002, I was half crazy to really pursue that in so many ways because of the market conditions. I think is the most simplistic term. The market conditions, knowing that TV networks would not even take a meeting because of the positioning of professional wrestling in the marketplace coming off the Attitude Era. So not sponsor friendly at all. That's kind of my point there. The second one, okay, AOL Time Warner canceled wrestling. And at the time, Nitro and Thunder, and I don't know the exact, I hear different things, but they were certainly a top 10, maybe a top 5 on both networks. So they were getting ratings, and sponsors wouldn't even look their way. And I'm going to start a wrestling a business during that time is, yes, borderline insanity. And again, Twitter didn't start till 2007. So it was, and Conrad, you'll be able to probably wordsmith a little better, but it was the message boards that were kind of a part of this. But for the big part was Keller, obviously Dave Meltzer. I would say Mike Johnson, but that means I'm calling him out because it's PW Insider, who Bob Ryder was a part of that, but Dave Shear and, I'll call it kind of the wrestling media, if you will, Jason Powell. There were several in there. And I think to their mindset, they had to sell, they were selling content just like wrestling business selling content, newsletters, and the access, fortunately, unfortunately, between my dad, I'll call it the Dixie Carter camp that grew. However you want to say, I don't even want to call them leaks, but it's just the nature of the business. And all the writers had sources and all that. And so it made for good content to create a sense of divisiveness and this and that. And then just kind of, I'll take as much blame or credit, whatever it may be, is that we didn't hit it out of the park every time. So when you have a growing brand of hit and misses, growing the business, and then you have, I'll call it the 8,000 pound gorilla in WWE in the marketplace, all that was our barometer. There was just so much kind of to write about. And I think, and look, Meltzer was very opinionated and he always had his sources, but the snowball that started out of, I'll call it 2010, 2011, when the Hogan Bischoff experiment or influx came in, and then it became light that Dixie's running the show, and they took it out on the road, and that failed, and it just there really it came easy. And I may be off on this, but it's my perception, just kind of through my lens. It came real easy to cachet everything as TNA LOL. Did we have a squeaky clean image from 2002 to 2009? Not at all. But the X Division and kind of the knockouts and the ratings continue to grow. We had a lot of bright spots. And at the end of the day, the revenue kept growing and the profitability. And so I think so many people had said they're going to fail, they're going to fail, they're going to fail, they're going to fail. And I think they just kind of dialed into, oh, they got to fail. And then we didn't. And you just talked at the top of the show, they're celebrating their 22nd anniversary. So hats off. And so a fair shake is the specific question. Hey, man, I was taught this from day one, from specifically my grandmother. And Lawler would kind of harp on it from spot show to spot show. As long as you're getting a reaction, you're creating some type of emotion. That's a good thing. When they're radio silence, you're in trouble. And so people were really never radio silent on TNA.
I just do. It's interesting that there's certain allegiances with certain promotions. And I know that, we'd like to think that people are truly independent. But the reality is, man, we all have what our own taste. Like,
Sure.
you know, you like a different kind of omelet than I do, so you're going to review that omelet differently. But like a few weeks ago, Meltzer was pretty critical of a match that happened with a couple of ladies in NXT, where they tried to basically recreate what they had seen with Ricochet and Will Ospreay years ago. And he said, well, it wasn't a wrestling match, it was an athletic display or something like that. But he was really dismissive of it. But when he saw MJF and Will Ospreay do it, it was 6 stars. And I'm not comparing the two matches. They were different. But I'm just saying he likes when Ospreay and Ricochet did it or whatever, but he doesn't like it when the ladies try to do it in NXT. And I think that a lot of that, and I'm not saying it's the exact same, but I'm saying the premise was similar and one would be criticized. And I think TNA was not given, I guess I'll call it the benefit of the doubt. Like even Andrew says, some of the criticism seemed completely over the top just for clicks. For example, Shark Boy in a coma wasn't going to kill the business. Yeah, it was silly. It was entertainment. But on Monday Night Raw, we saw a lady give birth to the hamburger helper hand. It didn't kill the business. We saw a guy dress up like Kane and climb in a casket and pretend to simulate sex with a skeleton. It didn't kill the business. So it's easy to sort of sit back and poke fun at all that. But I do think a lot of the great matches and the great stuff didn't get near the coverage, and it was just sort of dismissed. I just don't think TNA ever got the benefit of the doubt, whereas perhaps AEW or New Japan or others do. What do you say to that?
I could not agree more. And here's kind of another. So timing is everything. And when you went from, we'll call it the 90s, when it was really just print and a few message boards, and then, by early 2000s and certainly in mid 2000s and then the late 2000s, here comes Twitter and everything with that. So we got into a completely new world of the age of instantaneous information and a conversation going online, and it can grow and grow and grow. But on the heels of I'll call it the wrestling bubble, and Jesus, Conrad, 20 years later, they do a 4-part episode on who killed WCW. We're right off the heels of that. The hardcore WCW fans, whether it's Russo and his on-screen character or the bash at the beach and what really happened there, and just kind of that completely off-brand, if you will, Vince McMahon and the WWE killed their competition, and that was game, set, match. Nothing else matters in the world of professional wrestling. That was the era that that was really permeating there. And I think I really do. I think there was a very long tailwind in America that the war was over. There's only one brand, and everything else is not just way below second rate. It's bad. And so I think the divisiveness, timing, all kinds of things. Conrad, you know better than I do in business and market timing, and so much I read a long blog yesterday doing cardio about inflation and all the different opinions on it's a supply chain, and you start getting into that, and you can kind of dial into that. And then I start reading some of the comments on that, Conrad, and they go, well, wait a minute, the gas prices are the real reason. And there's so many kind of valid points, but at the end of the day, you can't put your finger on any one thing. That's kind of what my point is that the TNA LOL, look, did we add to that? Yeah, but man, I think people really glossed over taking a company that started over on a Wednesday night pay-per-view only is really the only means to start telling stories to 2 hours in prime time on Spike and doing quite well and profitable. Like that almost gets glossed over even today.
Let's do another question. This is a great one from a guy who you and I both know, super fan from Mexico. Roy wants to know who has Jeff's favorite feuds and moments in Mexico been with. What are some of your highlights of your experience in Mexico? Your favorite opponents, your favorite matches, your favorite moments, your favorite feuds?
I mean, I can't even begin to have the conversation without my early ones, with it being Latin Lover. I'll never forget Pena kind of describing it to him, and his English wasn't the best, and so we had to, kind of work with translation and all that. But he had me win Rey de Reyes, and that was, we're going back 20 years, so I'm late 30s. He was a big, he was special to me. So Latin Lover's right at the top. I like working with L.A. Park, the original, but La Parca, who passed away. I had a lot of entertaining high spots with him in matches, if you will, and that era, 2010, 11, 12, wherever that was, when we were in a lot of ways at our hottest as far as being heels. There was a I don't want to say any one particular, just that whole era. And then at the end of the day, all the moments in a lot of ways have been centered around either Conan's creative or actually on screen when he's bilingual and he can do a promo for literally both guys or 4 or 5 folks in the ring at the same time and get the story across. Very, very, very powerful storyteller. So the feuds with him, me and Karen in Tijuana, taking the 619 together is probably right at the top. Ray hitting both of us at the same time might be the single most as we live in the age of clips. That was a fun clip, man. There's too many. I am very grateful that I've had that 20-year career in Mexico because it's special. It's a different market. You have to understand the culture. You get over in a different kind of mindset, and the success we've had there is something that I take not only grateful but with a lot of pride.
Let's do another one here. This one is from WrestleManiac. When GFW was founded, ideally at the time, where did you hope and envision the brand to land on what network? Did a network deal ever come close to fruition? I know we've talked about this a little bit in the archives, but talk to us a little bit about what the goal was with GFW. That was, just over 10 years ago now.
That's crazy. WrestleManiac, and we have covered this in the archives, and there's some deep dives on that. But at the end of the day, it was to get a network deal. We were under a holding deal to Fox. And, that was something and that was we signed that deal, and not, I don't know, 2 months or 3, I think it was a 9-month deal. And probably 2 months into that is when Anthem came calling. So at the end of 2017, and it ran through at least 6 months into 2018. So, maybe. And anyway, so Fox was obviously we know where it ended up with SmackDown. But they were taking a very, very hard look at professional wrestling that early. Kevin Riley hadn't had the job at Turner less than a year. When I partnered with Arthur Smith, A. Smith, folks will know them as American Ninja Warrior, Hell's Kitchen, and a bunch of other successful shows. Super successful production company. Ninja Warrior is something that they took, and it took them 7 years to kind of move the chess pieces around and get that to where it was. And then that thing has made a fortune. But Arthur had a vision. When we got together, we worked really well together, and he had a game plan, and he dealt in Hollywood. And I mean, we had meetings with all of them, the Turner groups, AMC, obviously it was, and I think we've covered this. Yeah. Got called back to early in our conversations, got called back to the Viacom offices. I'm trying to think. Yeah, they were they still Spike? Anyway, had those conversations, had conversations with them all. So the hope was to get a network deal. And again, timing, financing, just wasn't part of it. But when Fox said, we had a meeting, and there was 15 people in the room with all the powers that be. And when we left, I felt real good about it. Arthur felt real good about it. And by the time I got to, it was 24 hours. They had contacted me and Arthur by email and said, hey, we're going to put you guys under a holding deal. And so we were super optimistic. Then Anthem came, went with that deal, and kind of had that on the back burner because the holding deal wasn't a promise. Arthur was like, you got to do what's best. So anyway, at the end of the day, a network deal that never got across the finish line for a number of reasons, probably first and foremost, financing of it.
Jeffrey Buchanan has a great question. He wants to know, if Jeff started a farm with Satnam Singh, Jay Lethal, and Sanjay Dutt, what would they grow?
Oh my gosh, a lot of food. Have you ever seen a 440-pound man eat? What would we grow? That's I think we would have a full-on. Got to be careful about cows, but no, I think we would have a full-on chickens, cows, maybe a few pigs, corn. I don't know if we grow wheat, but beans. We'd have a heck of a garden. It'd be a full 360 buffet, if you will.
Is it legal in Tennessee yet? Some cash crops? Could you grow some cash crops?
You know what? I'm not the one to ask. That's a good. Well, heck, you live close to the border. Is it?
I don't know. I don't partake in such.
Okay, so I don't know. I really don't.
Cody Crybaby Hayes, friend of the show, wants to know, we know Jeff Jarrett is a master of the guitar. However, if he was to put a real life band together, who would be in it? Drummer, lead singer, bass player, and 2 guitars. So listen, if we're going to use wrestling people, who would your singer be? Would that be Chris Jericho?
Okay, so
Somebody else in wrestling?
So we got to put together. Oh yeah, so lead singer would be my man Road Dogg.
Okay, Road Dogg's the lead singer.
Without question. Without question.
So if you're on one guitar, who's on another?
I think you got to go with Frankie Kazarian in bass. I think he plays the bass in real life. Drummer, you know who I'm going with? You're gonna maybe chuckle at this. You know who I put on drummer? The Olympic gold medalist, Kurt Angle. He's a drumming tool.
Okay.
And guess what? Kira is following in the footsteps. She can play guitar, drums. So drummer, lead singer, bass player.
How random is it that Kurt Angle is a wrestling machine and also plays drums?
Conrad, I think I've told you this story, right?
Yeah, you had the party in the back, and
all of a sudden, the
band was set up there, and then he just made his way over and just showed out in front of everybody, and nobody knew it was him.
Yeah, and the band started playing in with him, and I'm on the other side by the grill, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Who knew?
Who would have thought? Yes.
Joe Dombrowski, friend of the show, and the voice of MLW, shout out to Joe, has a great question. Does Jeff have any memory of this Australian media session from 2000, which featured Kevin Nash impersonating Lance Russell, plus Kevin, JJ, and Goldberg dealing with seemingly disrespectful hosts? Do you remember this?
You know what? That popped up recently online. And what kind of a unique fact. Now, Kevin impersonating Lance Russell is a treat. He especially late nights. Once him, Kevin, I'll say, let his hair down, and maybe I'd add a few adult beverages, and then I'd kind of feed him some lines or some unique talent that may be in and out that Kevin may or may not be aware of. But that popped up. I literally do not remember that. I know when we went down, pronoun spout, when WCW went to Australia, it was a big deal. Great crowds. I mean, there was A-listers that came out for it. the television network. There was it was one of those tours that when you landed, you knew, well, even before we went, we knew the sales, we knew the sponsors. There was going to be a lot of, I'll say, kind of the top guys, when you kind of get these memos or calendars, we're like, all right, we're going to be working much more than just the show or doing the TVs. There's a lot of work to go into it. And seeing this clip the other day, I don't, unfortunately, I don't have any recollection of going through this, of the guy or the disrespectful host. I just don't remember it. Maybe it was too many of those silver bullets.
Trey Downey says, what do they have to tear down in the gaps between tapings at the impact zone? I imagine the stage was just always there, but did they have to take down the ring when they'd be back in 2 weeks? What did you leave in place, and what was that process like, Jeff?
I tell you what, for those that know, that when you really got in and looked at the financials from 06, 07, 08, 09, when we went from 1 to 2 hours and all this. So what did we have to tear down? Absolutely nothing. Which was the fantastic experience and how it was a massive opportunity for profitability, because the TV truck, which you rent by the day, would pull in there, and we already had it's pre-rigged and pre-wired, and really it's the truck coming up and you just plug everything in. The lights stayed up, the stage stayed up, the bleachers, obviously, the fans, the stands, the pre-tape setups, the pre-tape rooms, the settings, everything stayed in place. The ring, we would unloosen the ropes so they wouldn't be tight. We just came in, and after each taping was over, it was one of those park services that it was a huge cleaning job and all that kind of stuff. But everything got to stay in place when we had the deal, and we did, it was literally a 12-month lease. So nothing. When we went out of there, when the company went out of there and went on the road and we started going back there, that the astronomical cost of taking a show on the road, but more importantly, when we went back there and, hey, we got to figure out how to do this pay-per-views, then we started paying everything a la carte, and everything was an up and down. When I say everything was an up and down, you got to take everything: lights, ring, bleachers, settings, and so then the costs get crazy. But we did a 12-month lease, I think, other than the Fox Sports show, and I think we did I think even then we did a 12-month lease, but we were rolling through that and we let that expire. And when we went back down starting the Spike show, I think we immediately went to a 12-month lease. And every year we figured out how to be just more economical across the board. It was a fantastic, absolutely great partnership with all parties winning out of it.
Here's a fun one from John. How much involvement, if any, did Jeff have when it came to TNA's pay-per-view posters? Did Jeff have to sign off on such things, or did he have any input? That's something that I'm glad we're talking about, because there was a graphic that was posted, I don't know, maybe sometime last year, and people were pretty upset about it. I forget if it was an anniversary or a certain number of episodes or whatever, but it was from a live event. It didn't air on TV. And it said something on the big screen like, "Thank you, Tony," talking about Tony Khan, for X number of episodes or X number of years, whatever it was. And the internet was all in arms, like, imagine this guy making his own graphic to thank himself. And it's like, dude, do you think that's how it works? Do you think Tony Khan has Photoshop skills and he made a graphic and sent it to the truck? And no, there's a team that does this. But what was the approval process like for marketing documents, posters, and things like that? Would you have to approve that, or somebody else?
So, you know what was fascinating that I kind of got a peek into? So, in a minute, just a second, I'll tell you kind of the TNA system. But when I worked at WWE from 2018, 19, whatever that was, 2021, 22, just in and out. But, the creative services, the amount of things that Vince signed off on was completely amazing to me, because there's show graphics and there's this and there's that, but for the most part, it's a Kevin Dunn, or it was a Kevin Dunn deal. So everybody has kind of a different system. Kevin Sullivan ran point on, concepts and proofs and all that. But for the most part, and they would run things by me or ask maybe a little bit here and there, but it was driven by TNA Studios. But Dixie was heavily involved. It depended on what year you ask. She would weigh in, but you've got 12 different pay-per-view logos, and you've got a show logo, and then you may have a special show. So there's a constant evolution. So there's a team. And then when you get into like commercials, then you're hiring out of house graphic folks. But for the most part, our system, I'll call it Kevin Sullivan and team. And then, Dixie and her marketing team would be involved. Sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. I would just get a glance by, or maybe I might have a special request or a thought or an idea. But for the most part, I was really kind of out of that.
Another fun question here. Social media can be negative, however, it can be positive. So, can you please share someone or someones who you think could have been a bigger star in the 80s or 90s with the social media ability to reach a larger audience? So, if social media existed in the 80s or 90s, who do you think would have benefited the most from that, Jeff?
Benefited the most.
I'll tell you an example in WCW that jumps off the page to me is Norman Smiley. The Big Wiggle, that would have went so viral in a social media context.
Okay.
I think the Big Wiggle would have been a real hit.
Oh, wow. See, okay. I would, it's thought provoking because I'd have to kind of really lay into social media changed the game in so many things. Oh boy. When you think of, because they did say 90s, when you kind of think of, I'm just trying to think of different gimmicks that just laid an egg before it got out of the gate, that social media could kind of give it context and a sense of humor. And I'm just trying to think, I don't know. I may not come up with the right ones. Remember Bastion Booger?
Yes, I do.
Okay. No, I mean, he's a funny dude, man. And the vignettes in those days, I'm not saying specifically, but they were just kind of campy and corny. In real life, that guy would have you in stitches. Super quick-witted. And those, I guess you could say, if you look at a series of bad vignettes that didn't get over, I think in the social media era that you could tweak and get feedback and you could refine it. And there's certain characters that could have been much more successful than they were, but they were kind of DOA right out of the water from campy vignettes. Even I'm just trying to think of the WCW era in the late 80s.
Dusty Rhodes would have been a big star in the 80s. So would Ric Flair. Like Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair promos would have gone super viral.
Super viral. Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's social media changed the game. So we could, there's a list a mile long. Yeah. I can't really land on anyone. That's a good question. We could circle back to that one day.
Who would it have worked against if everybody had a camera in their pocket like they do now?
Ooh.
Ric Flair is on that list.
Say, I mean, you go right to the top because there's such a shiny light on it. You'd have to say Hulk and Rick, right? I mean, they're like a who's who list, probably.
Yeah, I don't know if the Ultimate Warrior would have been a babyface very long.
No.
Red House Farmer 70 wants to know, were there ever any chances of the USWA and Global working together in the 90s?
So I think I saw this post online. Global was there after we left, right? That's the one after, because
yes, that's the one that Bruce went to work for with the Dark Patriot and all that.
Yeah. Just because was there any chances? I almost want to say zero. By that time, Jerry Jarrett was done. He was just completely done because the opportunity was there. It was up. It was making money. It went from making good money to great money to really good money in the syndication. And then poof, Kevin had different thoughts, and the house of cards that Kevin thought he could build was all blown away by their inability to run business. It died overnight. So I think that it's a hard no if the Von Erichs would have been involved. Were they gone by this time?
Yeah, they weren't involved.
This
was the one where they had the mysterious.
Yeah, but who really was that money?
I don't know, but I know Pedicino was heavily involved.
Yes. Yeah. And so Mole Man and Pedicino got along fine. And I'm trying to think there was somebody else, but that I want to say I forget I think he was Nigerian.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I was a part of, I think 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, if you will. And my dad was certainly open, but he never could wrap his head around on what you're playing. So I don't know.
Something I could never wrap my head around on is how people like you and Dave Silva would just think that the proper way to clean up poop that's been smeared all around your butt is to just take a dry piece of paper. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Here we go.
Like, if you were to go out and dig around and work in the yard and work in the garden, there's never a scenario where you'd come in and just take a dry paper towel and rub it across your hands and be like, okay, I'm clean. We all understand. No, man, you need to put those hands under that sink. You need to get that thing clean. You need some water to help. Well, the best way to clean your fingers if you've been eating wings is to lick them clean. Well, the bidet does the same thing from your butt, only with a precise stream of clean water. Instead of using toilet paper that falls apart and smears your shit around, or wet wipes that dry your butt skin out, wash all the stickiness of sweaty summer poops away with a Tushy bidet. I am so proud that we have this as a sponsor. I'm not even kidding. Anybody who knows me in my real life knows that I have a Tushy on every single toilet in my house. I want you to know this is easy, it's affordable, and it is a game changer. And if you're still trying to use dry toilet paper to clean your shit up, what are you doing? This Tushy is the real deal. And how about this? They've even got a travel deal now. It's a 3-stream nozzle. It's got an air mesh bag for discreet travel and faster dry time. I mean, it's got everything you need. But I'm a big believer in this product. I've used it for a long, long time. I highly encourage you to try it. And I know what you're thinking. Do I really need that? Yes, you do. You don't realize how primitive you've been if you've been going without a Tushy. The best options that I've ever seen are made by Tushy. It attaches to your existing toilet. So you don't have to go out and buy one of those name brands you've seen that you hear cost thousands of dollars. That's not this. This attaches to your existing toilet. It even connects to the same water source as your sink and your shower. So you're not pushing water up through the toilet bowl into your butt. That's not what this is. This is super easy to install, so easy that people can do it in under 10 minutes. And these 10 minutes will change your life. Friend of the show, Michael Dawkins, who's our gimmick attorney. He handles all of our legal work and all of your trademark work. Look for him online at Gimmick Attorney. He came to my house back in 2019, and we were doing some planning for StarCast or what have you, and he's spending the night at the house. And his bathroom had a washlet made by Tushy. He was in love with this product. He could not believe that he had gone this long without it. He ordered one before he left my house. It was waiting on him when he got home. He's installing it, and his wife is making fun of him, thinking this is ridiculous. This is the stupidest thing of all time. She used it one time, and she said, I was wrong. His kids, who at the time were real big fans of Santa Claus, said, hey, Dad, can we take the Xbox off the list? I want a Tushy. I'm not making this up. These are little kids who were like, this is next level. You are going to have your life changed forever with Tushy. Wiping with toilet paper just smears poop around. It spreads bacteria around. It causes chronic infections down there. Things like hemorrhoids and UTIs and yeast infections and anal fissures. Tushy bidets are easy to use. Just sit down, relax, turn the knob, and you're going to get a precise stream of fresh water aimed at your butt. I believe in this product, and they do too. That's why every Hello Tushy bidet comes with a 30-day hassle-free return and a 12-month warranty. We want you to stay shower fresh all summer long and join the 2 million butts who already switched to Tushy. And for a limited time, our listeners can get 10% off their first bidet order when they use our code MyWorld at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com. And be sure to use our promo code MyWorld. That's hellotushy.com. Use the promo code MyWorld. So listen, man, let's jump into it. We got another question here. You're muted, pal.
I stepped away. You going to ask me where I went?
You didn't go use your Tushy, did you?
Yes, I did.
You went and took a slam and came back that fast? That's impressive.
Only with Tushy.com. No.
Go right now, hellotushy.com. Use our promo code MyWorld. Let's jump into it here. Mike wants to know, who is the next big thing in wrestling?
You know what? If I had that answer, I can assure you that me and Conrad would have them under contract. But I've said it over and over. And I will tell you one guy that is at least getting up to bat, at least taking the shot that, and I've said it over and over and over, the guy, the talent, so I don't say guy or girl, who figures out how to maximize social media is, I mean, it just, without a doubt, you just put them out in front. I mean, Logan Paul, I mean, he comes from that world, great athlete, but man, he's kind of been immersed in the world of professional wrestling, and it's a social media. So I'm certainly not comparing here because it's not even close. But our man Big Baby Bishop is a guy that is trying to make some noise on social media, and the talent that I try to, follow as many people. I got a passion for it. I love professional wrestling, and I like to see how things grow or not grow, and the reason this and that, and not just in the United States, but internationally, and just the different metrics and all that. But social media is your ticket because it can set you apart just immediately. Everybody's on their phone. Everybody wants to create down at the Predators Bridgestone. I was talking to one of those guys, and they're like, yes, every hockey fan that comes through there, they want to be a part of the experience of what happens in this and that. And, they have all kinds of drinks and foods and this and that. But one of their VIP suite areas is it's all about the experience. And so the talent that can dial in to social media in a unique, compelling, engaging way that's repeatable, anything that is going to have success, I think, in this world is how can you figure out not just do it one time, but in a repeatable. And, Conrad, we've chuckled and kind of looked at different things, but old Big Ben is headed down that road. He's 6'10", decent body, his work. He's not going to have the next banger, but is he going to engage with the audience? You bet your ass. So who do I think is the next big thing? The person who maximizes social media the best. And shout out to Big Ben Bishop because he's given it a hell of an effort, and we'll just kind of see where that goes.
John over on Twitter wants to know, if TNA ever finds itself on the market and for sale, is there any chance that Jeff would make inquiries into purchasing, or is that a closed book for Jeff?
Oh, and Mr. Cantrell Staley, I'll finish your tweet that Conrad did not say. Jarrett-Thompson. I'm going to flip that. Thompson-Jarrett could make TNA great again. Well, that's
TNA's pretty good right now, by the way.
That's
Folks need to quit sleeping on it and go watch it.
Exactly. Look, like anything, anything in the wrestling business, I really am. I'm interested at. And what would the What do they value it at? People get into these valuations and I don't care what it is. You can come up with all the valuations you want in the world. You got to find a buyer, period. And then that buyer has to agree with that valuation. Other than that, it's just great fodder, if you will. And look, I'm not discounting tax situations and all that kind of stuff, but certainly I'd take a look at anything. And if Conrad says let's do it, I'd say let's do it.
Oh, shit. Any good stories of working with TNT Motorsports monster trucks and tractor trailer pulling during the Renegade/Red Man Tobacco promotion days?
Buddy, I don't know what year it was, but my old man, it was always a dreamer, and he just liked to think big. And he was a big part of the early days of monster trucks and putting it on TV and creating TV shows out of it. And then in those days, it was syndicating. Cable television wasn't, it was around and it was growing, but syndication, there was going to be a massive amount of money. And I'm talking about the early days of Bigfoot and everything that went with that. Well, you couldn't advertise tobacco or all the kind of restrictions. And that's where, when I look at the late 80s and USWA, it wasn't even called USWA at that point, our Red Man promotion, and we did Renegades, which was just a brand of Pinkerton Tobacco Company. Those are the ones that wrote the checks. They were huge. They were and that's when I kind of look at my old man and sponsorship money. I don't want to say ahead of his time because I was not in the DNA of Crockett and World Class and all the other promotions and WWE and everything that went with that. But I know the dollars that were being pulled in and how it helped and how it gave opportunities. My dad, that tobacco money, it found money, if you will, and he loved to do those kind of promotions. And we got the ring mat. I'll never forget. I think Scott Steiner, I don't say it was his first kind of break, but they had a Renegade Rampage tournament, and my dad wanted to make Scott the winner of it all. And Scotty would never use tobacco. And I think they had that discussion. But that was the first time that we put a logo and had the logo hand painted. Crappy job, territory days, but I mean, there was a logo put on the mat, and the banners that were used on Memphis TV. It was a big deal, and it was all driven by a tobacco company that wanted to write check because they wanted to be branded because they dominated motorsports, but they wanted to get into others. So yeah, tobacco money was very, very good to Jarrett Enterprises back in the day.
Ari has a great question. Super Clash 3. It's a running joke that rival promoters couldn't agree on lunch. Why did Jerry think working with Vern could actually work?
Great. Well, and Fritz, yeah. Well, yeah, it was still Fritz. I think at that point they had witnessed Conrad. Super Clash 3 was 88, I think. So you would have had how many WrestleManias by that time? 4, 5?
Yeah, 88 was 4.
Okay, so the proof was in the pudding that Vince McMahon had taken a time slot that at one time was old Joe Blanchard in the USA Network, however it may be. But I mean, they had blown up in a huge way. What was that show? Tuesday Night Titans? Because this is pre-Raw. But anyway, the model that Vince McMahon have taken it national was massive, and they were, and I say the territory promoters who were all older than Vince or much older knew that the new kid on the block was kicking ass. And although, WCW would come in and my dad and Lawler would come up with the right strategy, for the most part, they saw them coming in, paying for TV, doing good numbers, and then doing house shows twice a year, 3 times a year with much bigger houses. Vince's plan was working and the territory days were dying. And I kind of think it was I think in a lot of ways, hindsight being 2020, that was a Hail Mary for all 3 of them. Hey, can we make this work out? And it didn't. It didn't, which goes to the fundamental, how to say this, the fundamental basics of the professional wrestling business is you got to have one person where the buck stops there. Hence, WCW died. There was too many bosses.
Old Man Odin says, just want to know what was the hardest bump he took in all the Memphis Moondog matches. I remember he hit his head on the ceiling jumping on a counter. Let's just say by the looks of it, that ceiling was solid. You've mentioned to us before, you still got a scar on your back right now from glass and things. Was that a Moondog match?
That's Kennett, Missouri. Yes, at Kennett, Missouri. Probably the 1x6s, night after night. Those, sometimes you would get cracked over the head, and they would snap. Other times they were stiff as hell. And Larry Latham did not mind it. I think back to those days, we didn't call it hardcore, but it was brutal hardcore. Every now and then too, Larry would run out of, it was like a running joke. So we wouldn't have 1x6s that you could crack over our heads. So if you had a 2x4, hey man, don't take this over the head. Let me just whack you in the back with it. Well, a 2x4 ain't going to break, but if you get hit hard enough by 2x4 over the back, it hurts. It hurts bad, Connie. So several of those as well.
Victor wants to know fantasy booking for Jeff. If Jeff had his final match, who would he want his last opponent to be? Could be someone from past or present.
Oh gosh. Oh, I don't know. If I can go back in the past, I'd love to be a heel in my last match and work against the fabulous Jackie Fargo. You could entertain them. It wouldn't have to get too physical. I'll let the
we're gonna walk and talk, son.
You ain't kidding. We sure entertain them.
Jerry Getson says, I would be curious to know what storyline or angle would he have loved to be a part of and he was not? Or who did he want to feud with from the past or present? So is there one where you had FOMO? Like, man, that looks like fun. I wish I could be a part of that.
You know what? I mean, I'm just trying to give them my word listeners. Conrad, when I first got to WCW and I found out, oh no, you're not going to be a part of the NWA storyline at all. You're doing the Four Horsemen. I was like, oh man. But then, I mean, that might have been for a night. Then I went, oh yeah, okay. They've already got 6. Literally the 6th one was in there. So it's going to get a little heavy weighted. Storyline. I don't know. As a kid, I always wanted to get the Lawler storyline, and by design, I was not, because I was in the story. Some of Lawler's storylines didn't hit Nashville, Louisville, and Evansville. They just did Memphis. So I was always in a separate storyline that we can make all the towns. That's probably kind of off the top of my head. Who do I want to feud with from the past? Yeah, I've said it. Well, I mean, and we did a little bit of feud, but I mean, going back a generation, I really would have loved to been a heel and work against Fargo. Just the little things, even that he taught me in his last years when I got to do a 6-man tag or all this kind of stuff. I don't say I had to pull it out of him, but I mean, he had to really like you. And I want to just soak up everything I could. So I was just mesmerized out of kind of like the nuances and all this. And he would, the different things on how to read a crowd and listen. I just think he was brilliant. And look, Lawler, I think, learned so much from him as well. The guys that really learned to have an ear. I don't think I've impressive, if people are wanting to get in the business. Also, I think even fans, the hardcore fans, I think that, if you got musician buddies, like folks, you know, a really good musician. Why are that? Well, they've got a fantastic ear because they can tell when a note is just the slightly bit flat or sharp, and kind of the rhythm and all the things go with it. To really understand this business, I think at a very, very high level, you better be a good listener. And if you go out and listen to a crowd, learn what to listen to. And a lot of times the thing that is the most important is what you're not hearing. But you got to have that experience to know, wait a minute, people are, I'm not feeling this. I'm not hearing this. So I don't know. I love these Ask Jeff Anything. They get my brain going in different directions.
No, I love them too. Chris wants to know, hypothetical, if Owen had never had his accident and seen out the remainder of his contract in WWE, would this have had any bearing on Jeff's decision to leave the company in October of '99?
That, and I think I've been asked this type of question in so many ways. In a lot of ways, that changed everything in so many ways that I was aware of, and then also that I wasn't aware of, that we've kind of covered over the last couple of months. But obviously, had he not passed, I think me and Owen could have ended up back as a tag team. If we end up back as a tag team, then the entire story with China, that kind of looking at the pieces of the puzzle of DX and them wanting to do something with China. Well, if I hadn't been a single, and then it was Deborah and Miss Kitty and just kind of me being that male chauvinistic character in a different era. Folks, we're talking 1999 and Guitar Shots and me hitting Moolah. And, you know, when I kind of look back on, and we've covered this, I guess you could say 97 to 98 of October was, can't say it was a disaster, but kind of, you know, it was what it was. But then SummerSlam 98 got the head cut, and kind of the direction we were going. Then me and Owen started teaming and had success there. And then if we would have weaved back into that, would there or not? But yeah, so many things would have changed. I've been asked, would he have ever worked at WCW? I think it's almost, yeah, probably. If Brett went there, surely Owen. I mean, there's a lot of different things that probably, but you don't know.
Do you think, well, let's do Josh's question. Who are your preferred road agents and what characteristics did you like about them? That's one we haven't really talked about before, but you worked in WCW and there were agents. You worked in the WWF twice and there were agents. You worked in TNA and there were agents. Do you have even these days in AEW? Shout out some folks you like them as an agent, and what do you like about their style and their approach that makes them one of your favorites?
I'm thinking, Conrad, over, I'll say, my 37 years. The early days, getting a finish from Jerry Jarrett, Bill Dundee, Jerry Lawler. I'm trying to think who else might have laid out finishes. When Lawler was really into it, he is damn good. Very, very, very collaborative. Like, can you do this? Can you? But man, in a lot of ways, you ever see Jerry even doodle? He's just freaking unbelievably artistic. Well, he knew how to apply that to the business in so many ways. And then I'll say, get in the WWF days, Jack Lanza, Jack smoking his cigarettes, blowing the smoke right in your face. But again, another guy that he understood the business. He understood from a babyface's perspective and a heel's perspective. He also knew how to kind of deliver, nope, this is what we want. And you never really knew in a positive way, is this coming from Vince? Is this coming from Pat? Is this coming from Jack? But guess what? He's delivering it in a convincing manner. Let's just go do it. So Lanza, super good. WCW era, Kevin Sullivan, again, a guy that could paint a nice picture, but it would be collaborative, and he didn't quite necessarily get down to the micro part of things. And I think sometimes we call them coaches in AAW, producers, agents. They've been called a bunch of different things. I think there's a lot of times, and I would at TNA when I was working with my guys, I would say, don't get too worried about the micro. Let the talent do that. You worry about the macro. Let them get us there, and they'll take ownership of it. They'll buy into it. They'll just have a good feel with that. Dutch is another one. Not only did he help teach me that, but I observed that. And then when he would kind of work with me, although he was working for me, I took a lot of advice, and he's like, "You're going to get to the same spot, Jeff. You do it whichever way you want, but you're going to get the same spot." But if I wasn't, he'd say, "Hey, man, what if this?" Your old Bruce Pritchard line. What if we went down this road? And then, I've talked about TNA. So now I just think there's an art in delivering the story as opposed to move by move. And I think that's where it falls off the rails. Somebody trying to lay out a move for move in a finish.
Here's one from Bryant. He says, "We know Jeff has never had this problem, but when a crowd is just dead and not into your match, what are some tricks as a heel or as a babyface you can do to get the crowd back into it?"
Oh, I can't give away my tricks.
All right.
No, I think, a lot of times the advice Toby Keith gave me went such a long way. Know your audience and earn them one at a time. I think that can be very applicable, whether there's, no matter what, you have to create engagement. Well, if you're just kind of buckshotting it or scattershotting across the crowd, it's hard to have any one-on-one. You can find somebody in the crowd without question that either is going to get behind you or they're going to not like you. Create that sense of, engagement, and it's contagious as hell. I mean, I can't tell you how many times in 2010 or 11 or 12 when me and Karen first started working together, she would go, "Stop, under her breath at ringside, "Stop, like stop. That's enough. That's enough." Or, "You okay, Jeff? You all right? You all right? You all right?" Because there would be real tension between me and whoever, and she could feel it. The crowd could feel it. But that's what it's all about.
Eric Lewis wants to know, did Jeff see the Maharaja make his first appearance after his 90 days was complete, taking a page out of the last Outlaws playbook? Of course, he's talking about the former Jinder Mahal, who made his GCW debut over the weekend. I'm a big fan of Jinder. I really appreciated his stuff in WWE, but just like him as a human being too, we have watches and some other things in common. And he's a cool guy. I'm a fan. I'm pulling for his success. Did you see him debut for GCW, and what'd you think?
Put a smile on my face, as we both are. I think he has untapped talent that he is about to show the world. It's going to be, again, he's not afraid to roll up his sleeves. I mean, you can just look at his physical body and tell that he's not afraid of work. And so I think he's on his way. It created the right buzz. I saw clips of it all over the place. Put a smile on my face. Took me back to New Year's Day, 2022, when, Connie, some folks were surprised that the last Outlaw showed up in Atlantic City. And so, although people knew Jinder's 90-day was getting close to being up, I just don't think they called it, and that's a good thing. And so I thought it was cool to see him appear.
CCP Podcasting says, what does Jeff want his legacy to be when he rides off into the sunset?
That's maybe too big a question. My legacy? I mean, at the end of the day, and well, maybe people don't. I think I think that maybe simplistic terms, people know that I have a passion for my family and and the business, and I give it everything I possibly. Very flawed, make so many mistakes, but never do I do anything without passion and really, really wanting what's best. Absolutely wanting what's best. I can say in my worst days of being in management, it's not like I was doing decisions that, oh man, no, I've always done my best for what's best. It was just ingrained in me from my grandmother, my dad, Lawler, Vince McMahon, every boss that just crafted in it. Look, if it's best for the promotion, it works for everybody. And so I've really tried to base my decisions on that. And that's what I hope that I've tried to give everything I can to making whatever I'm a part of, not just wrestling, in all things, the most successful.
Here's one from James. He wants to know any fun or interesting Eddie Gilbert stories. Jeff and Eddie had a bloody brawl on WMC. I heard this was on the day of Tojo Yamamoto's funeral. Can you tell us about this day?
I don't believe it was on the day of Tojo's funeral. I think for what I remember, Tojo's funeral was during the weekday because of, I may be off, but I think it was a weekday funeral. I really do. Eddie Gilbert taught me. We had a spot show run here, and we did 30-minute Broadways. And then I was a babyface. I asked for five more minutes, and I would beat him at the 34-minute and 50-second, whatever it is. We almost went 5 and all that. So I had a lot of fun with Eddie. I mean, probably too much fun at times. The one thing that Eddie could go from 0 to 10 at, that what was that? 89, 90, 91, whatever it may be. Eddie, I mean, in the dressing room, in a car, in a promo, backstage, he could create and go from 0 to 10 on intensity. And he was like, Jeff, when you fire on me as a babyface, you got to get really mad really quick. Like I've the proverbial straw broke the camel's back. He kind of, he taught me how to shift gears quickly. And I think that's important as a talent. But yeah, Eddie is, what a character Eddie was. Funny. The Gilberts, his father, Eddie's father, and my grandfather, Tommy Gilbert and Eddie Mahler, were tag team partners for years and years and years. So the Gilberts and the Jarretts have known each other forever. A guy like Eddie, there will be times through my career that I would think kind of about him and miss him. Like, damn, man, he truly did leave us too soon. But while he was here, he was super entertaining.
We got a few more, and then we'll put a button on this one. Darren Harrison wants to know if Jeff could sit down with a 24-year-old Double J, what are the lessons he would try to teach him? What would the last outlaw try to impart on a 24-year-old Double J?
Not just learn to listen to people better. If you ask enough questions and then shut your mouth and listen, people will tell you what they're thinking. It took me a long time to really understand that. That may be some
You've mastered the pause. I would agree with that.
Now, why do you say that?
Because I've just seen you do it.
Okay.
You'll just look like you're in thought and you'll be quiet. And then people will feel the need to feel the silence. You don't feel that pressure. You don't succumb to that pressure. And then they start talking and it creates opportunities. I've seen you do it.
Okay. It took me a long time, long time to learn that.
You were emotional before and would knee jerk?
Feel the need to talk.
Just feel the space.
Yeah, to feel the air. In your 20s, you want to make sure, 30s even, or maybe 40s. Hey, I know what I'm doing. I've this, or the confidence and all this kind of stuff. That there is. I think the most simplistic term is silence is truly an action. Being silent takes thought. Just shut up and listen.
Last question is from a guy who we both know and think a lot of, a GCW performer who's recently found himself injured. Jordan Oliver says advice for how he'd recommend young wrestlers find their character or voice. Jordan's a great in-ring wrestler. I don't know another way to say that, but I'm saying if you want to watch one of Jordan's matches, you'll be impressed. This is a guy who,
about Jordan. Yeah.
but I appreciate that he's wanting to know, hey, he's not saying this. I'm putting words in his mouth. I got the wrestling stuff down. I know how to do all the moves. I know how to put together fun matches that people will get behind. The character and the voice, that tells me that boy Jordan, he doesn't just want star ratings. He wants to make a bunch of money in wrestling and be a big time television star. What advice would you give to somebody who feels like they've got some of the mechanics of storytelling and working a match and how to do moves and selling and all that, but man, they really need to find their voice. They really need to establish a character. What advice would you give someone who's in that spot right now?
Conrad, do you know what jumped off the page at me when I read that? Because as for you, just audio listeners, as we're going through, and you can check this out on myworldpod.com. You can subscribe and hit the bell on YouTube, but it's a whole different experience. But I try to reread to myself these tweets, these posts. And so as Conrad's saying this, I want to make sure. Advice for how he'd recommend young wrestlers find their character, in quotes, or voice. Voice jumped off the page. How do I find my voice? And that tells me, okay, kind of going a deeper level of emotion, a deeper level of soul, if you will, because I think so many people, and this is, Jordan, man, this is a tough one, and maybe we'll see each other one day and we can elaborate on this. But playing a character, I think, and nothing replaces experience and time and all that. But when I sat down, I think I'm just trying to think of a simple kind of example. I think when I sat down and they said, I'll never forget it, Fairfax, Virginia. We went out and worked the opening dark match. It was Sanchez' hometown, and we went out and did that, Conrad, and we kind of talked about that. And then Jay, anyway, cleaned up all this, and so I had to get cleaned up. And so we went and we're going to shoot that. And Zane, the producer, sat down. They got the lighting right. There was noise in the background. They found it right. And they just said, Hey, Jeff, can you give us your thoughts on you being entered into the Owen Hart Foundation tournament? That was the question. And Conrad, I talked for 9 or 10 minutes, and I don't think anyone would say, hey man, you did some good character work there. That was good character work. I say that to say, Jordan, that character feels like I'm going to go play a part that's not me. Favorite actor in the world. I just saw a thread, was that yesterday or a couple of days, on Robin Williams in the Gifford characters, Good Will Hunting and Miss Doubtfire and different things. Dude, his talent was unbelievable, but I think he could get into different characters. I think wrestling is that unique set of circumstances that if you ever met Handsome Jimmy Valiant, quiet, mild-mannered, never raised his voice, he's super intelligent, a good storyteller, but the Boogie Woogie Man was off the charts, but that's an extension of Handsome Jimmy. So I think character is playing somebody you're not. Voice is finding that right key where it's not too sharp, not too flat. So how do you find your voice? And I think that voice comes from reps, from life experiences. I also think it comes from, I'm going to watch my favorite 3 or my favorite 5 or my favorite 7 wrestlers. And I tell these guys at seminars, don't go watch their WrestleMania match only. Go watch their entire body of work and watch them evolve. It's by osmosis, you're going to kind of find some things. So over time, you're gonna find different tidbits from different characters, and you're gonna start making it your own. Like, I don't know how many times I stood at the monitor backstage at WMC TV when I knew a Lawler segment was coming up and he was going to blister and he's going to do a promo. And a lot of guys were in the same room and they're not even watching it. And I'm not saying disrespect on this, but man, I wanted to know, damn, Lawler can talk his ass off. But more than that, he's not yelling and screaming. He kind of painted a picture on what he's going to do to this opponent, and Austin Idol. And then, I mean, you can just look at all the different great promo guys through the years. So finding your voice, Jordan, I commend you already for looking at it that way. You got to find your voice, and you got to figure out that slice of your real personality that makes you different, that makes you unique, that, and again, I'm going to dumb it down to me, so many parts of it. You either got to be likable or not. I mean, you need to be, if you're a heel, you really need to be a worthless piece of crap that the people just don't care for. I mean, I know that sounds so silly, but it's if you don't believe it, I can assure you your audience won't. So you got to have to find your voice is the most important thing. You're on the right track. I'll say that. Find your voice. I don't know what it is, but it's there. You just kind of have to keep getting your reps in, and you'll figure it out. And social media can be your best friend.
We've heard Stone Cold before do interviews where he said that the Stone Cold character was really him, just with the volume turned way up. Would you agree with that? You find your real character, just look within and turn the volume way up and just exaggerate it.
We could look at Randy Savage's career.
Yes.
I mean, we could kind of go all the way down. Yeah, there's numerous examples of that, but yes, without question.
Boys and girls, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Ask Jeff Anything. We got a lot more great questions. We'll try to bring some of those over to adfreeshows.com as a bonus. But in the coming weeks, we would love for you to join us as a part of our live studio audience, when we'll be talking about all things Shawn Michaels. We'll also talk about 1987 and what a year it was. We're going to spend some time talking about Kevin Nash and TNA. And of course, we're going to hit the Motor City Machine Guns. There's a lot of rumor and innuendo around those boys right now, but there's no rumor and innuendo. The YouTube is live. That's myworldpod.com. It's totally free. It's your home for all things Jeff Jarrett. Go right now to myworldpod.com, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell so you won't miss it the next time we're live. If you've got a question for us or would love to interact with us, the show is on all forms of social media. It's at myworldpod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find Jeff Jarrett on all of those at Real Jeff Jarrett. He's at Real Jeff Jarrett on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And by the way, in my real life, I'm helping people save money at savewithconrad.com. Don't take my word for it. Go read some of the 5-star reviews. We just got one 2 days ago from Mary up in Kentucky, who says Diane was wonderful and so approachable as well as professional. The experience was beyond expectations. Got another great review from Landon W. in Oklahoma City, who's saying how great the communication was and we found solutions. How about another 5 stars for Illinois? Everything was accomplished in a timely fashion. Here's the deal. Whether you're looking to buy a house, whether you're looking to remodel, turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket, or maybe you just would like to take a little summer vacation from house payments, we can help you get rid of all your credit card debt just like that. Once you owe that money, it's up to you how to pay it back. Now, you can keep doing what you've been doing and pay higher interest rates and just get stuck making minimum payments and drag this thing out for years. Or you get a much better rate, a much greater tax deduction, and a cheaper monthly payment. And did I mention no house payments for 2 months? We can make it happen for you right now at savewithconrad.com, where, by the way, we don't say no, we say not yet, but here's how. Let's get a plan to save your family some cash with my family at savewithconrad.com. NMLS number 32416. Jeff, I love the Ask Jeff Anything format. Today was a lot of fun, man. Thanks for all the time.
Well, thank you. I'm trying to join the YouTube chat over here. I was going to tell everybody in the room, Eric and Rosie and old Coach and Isaac and all the other folks, thanks for joining us. So I'll do that another time. But Ask Jeff Anythings. We never know where we're going to go on this, but good stuff today.
Great stuff. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week right here on My World with Jeff Jarrett. But don't forget, tomorrow night in Nashville, AEWTIX.com, Blood and Guts is on the way. We'll see you next week right here on My World.
Peace.